And so, Andy, Claudius, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about who you are, what you do for the company, and tell us a little bit about what this relationship with Luxury Cruise Connections with us is all about. So talk to us.
Yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
very much. Go ahead.
So my name is Andy Fuentes. I am the regional sales director in Florida for Scenic, Luxury Cruises and Tours, and Emerald Cruises. Thank you very much, first off, everyone, for attending this afternoon. I'm very happy to be here and with my partner, Luxury Cruise Connections. As Carlos mentioned, for our president and CEO of the U.S. of the Americas to come down and talk to these folks, how deeply appreciative we are for this relation. And I always say to folks here, what we're going to talk about today, you have any questions, please reach out to them. Please, book your vacations with them, because we are the ones that give them the deals. And part of that is because of our relationship. And let me make a big introduction to the person to the left or maybe to your right of you. So I brought this gentleman here because he was actually with me when I was with Crystal Cruises. And one of the things that I love about him, and he's a world traveler, he knows everything. Trust me, folks, when you hear him today, you wish you could put him in an app and put him on when you're traveling, because he knows the nooks and crannies of the world. Now, the reasons why I brought him is a lot of times you might be sailing on these beautiful itineraries and you're like, how did they come up with these itineraries? Like, why did they come up with these itineraries? Well, now's the time to ask the person who honestly do all these itineraries. And his name is Claudius Dosico. He is the Vice President of Ocean Deployment. Claudius, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carlos and Andy, and of course, everybody participating today. We really appreciate you taking this hour away from your schedule. I know we're all busy, especially in the beginning of the year. You're supposed to do all that cleaning, which I haven't started yet. But anyway, as Andy mentioned, I'm a veteran in this industry. I come from Crystal, Azamara, Sujin Yacht Club, and expedition cruising, actually, as well as river cruising. So I've sort of done the gauntlet of that. As you can hear from my accent, I'm not from Texas. I'm actually still a citizen of Austria. I grew up and schooled in Vienna. So I'll be very happy to honestly and openly answer all your questions. And I appreciate the kind introduction by Andy. I have traveled extensively since I was about 12, 13 years old when I started hitchhiking down to Italy from Vienna, unbeknownst to my mother. But anyway, so I look forward to chatting with you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Very proud, to have the opportunity of having you guys join us today. Warm welcome to all of our guests and friends. So let's jump right into it. A little bit of also logistics. So we're going to go through the presentation and also know that at the end, we're going to open up, I'm going to go through every single one of the questions in the chat. But again, one more time, if you feel that you want to interrupt, feel free to do so. This is meant to be informal. It's meant to be very fun, educational, but also very dynamic. So I'm going to be sharing my screen a couple of moments whenever we're talking about something and I have some images to share with our guest. So, but let me start off by kind of allowing people to understand a little bit of the world of Scenic and Emerald. Just quick introduction on what Scenic and Emerald are, what your ships are, what your type of cruising is. Talk about.
So one of the things, and if you can show that slide, Carlos, do you want me to share the screen?
I'll
share the screen?
Okay. I got it.
Because I definitely want to get everybody to visualize exactly, what we do. So we are an Australian-based company. We came here to the U.S. about 10 plus years ago. We've been in business for over 30 years. And primarily our business, believe it or not, was land tours. And then we started to do river cruises actually a little bit after that. We started with the Scenic spaceship, which you see there on your upper left-hand corner. And then years after that, we started with the Emerald Starships. So those two, they're the river cruises is what we began our business, and we've done very successful in Australia and Europe. In the United States, you probably have not heard of us before. I heard some of you they have, some might not. But if you travel abroad to Europe, to the UK, to Australia, we're a household name, and we're bringing that over here to the US. So in 2018, the owner had a big idea of doing something unique with Expedition. And one of the things that he did with the Expedition was to make it luxury, to bring like this luxury, and I call it glamping, out to these remote areas. But he didn't want to stop there. He wanted to do Expedition with yacht, because in the times that we cannot go to these remote areas, he wanted to go into the other continents like Europe, like Australia, like North and South America, Asia, so forth and so on. So he built the Scenic Eclipse. So in 2020, we know what happened. Definitely that big elephant in the room. And then things just kind of paused for us. But in 2022, last year, we began service with our brand new ship, the baby of our fleet, which is the Emerald Azura, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And her story is basically very interesting, because the idea of her began in 2020 when the owner was out in Switzerland, and he saw, how Europeans started to vacation because all the borders were closed. And that is our story.
Cool. So, and I'm gonna do this. Sorry, hold on one second. Wait. There we go. Okay, so, talk to me a little bit about, and sorry, I'm trying to, there you go. Okay, so
There
let's
she
jump
is.
into the Emerald Azura. Talk to us about Emerald, a little bit of what the brand stands for, and a little bit about this particular ship, the beautiful Azura.
No, so the Emerald brand. So again, the Emerald brand comes. It was later introduced to the Scenic Group, and to be honest with you, to the difference between the two brands. So a lot of people say, well, what's the difference between Emerald and Scenic? Well, one of the things is that the big main difference is that Scenic is all-inclusive, ultra luxury. So you're talking about 5-star service on a river cruises, 6-star service on the Scenic Eclipse, our expedition yacht, which the owner likes to call it Discovery Yacht. He doesn't like that word expedition, because again, we're just a different type, which Claudius is going to mention that here in a minute. Emerald is more of the little sister. Emerald is the nicely included. Same service, same culinary, same family, except it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. So the price points are going to be a lot lower on Emerald. But when I say that, I don't want you to think it sacrificed the service. It sacrificed something. It doesn't. It's just the way that you want to experience your vacation. Some folks like all-inclusive, one price and that's it. Other folks like to customize. And that's what we do on Emerald. So this particular ship, the Emerald Azura, the idea of that came in 2020 when the owner was out on vacation in Switzerland and then going to the Adriatic. When he was in the Adriatic, he saw that a lot of Europeans were chartering private yachts, and private yachts was the big thing out there, especially during the pandemic. Obviously, some borders of a lot of countries were closed, and they started to do these yachts. So he said, what if I build a yacht, a super yacht, but made it like a cruise ship? And that's what he did. And that's in 2020, he had that idea. In 2020, started building it. In 2022, bam, there it goes. And the reasons why we did that fast transition is because we own our shipyards. So it's not like, we have another contractor, another company, the shipyards. Actually, we own them. So from the time that the ship is built to the time the ship hits the water, it's our employees, the one who works for the owner, and his name is Glenn, and his wife Karen Maroney. So the yacht in itself is 100 passengers. So for those of you that are not familiar with going on a yacht, and I'm going to turn it over here to Claudius here in about a few seconds, but when I look at this, the first thing that I think of is in two parts. One, when I was a child, I used to watch Lifestyle of the Rich and the Famous with Robin Leach, and I'm a millionaire or billionaire to go on this cruise. And the second way is kind of currently right now, I watch the show Below Deck on Bravo. My wife, she puts it on, so I watch it. But I got into it because and honestly, it was a great show. So those things really compare to what the Emerald Azura. Now, I honestly have not sailed on the Emerald Azura yet, but Claudius has. So Claudius, please let us know, what to expect on the Emerald Azura, what makes her very unique. In our past presentations, you always say this is not cruising, this is yachting. So please let everybody know, about the Emerald Azura.
Thank you very much, Andy. Yeah, I've been fortunate to have been sailing on small yachts, including Azura, since the very early 80s, including expedition yachts that all have 100, 150 passengers. And although I have sailed on larger ships, to me, I'm personally very, very fond of smaller vessels because they just feel very private, feel very personal. And in the case of Emerald Azura, when you see her lines, and as Andy mentioned, she was launched last year in 2022, so she's a brand new vessel, very exciting. And it's, when we talk about small cruise ships and yachts, and people, when you use the word small, and I don't even like to use the word small, but people think they're on a yacht which is smaller than a big cruise ship. They're going to be cramped and crowded. Nothing could be further from the truth. All our yachts, at the Emerald as well as the Scenic yachts, they're built very, very spaciously. For example, on Emerald Azura, out of our 50 suites, we have 6 suites that are indoor. I shouldn't say indoor. They don't have a terrace. Out of 50, there's only 6 that do not have a terrace, but they do have a huge picture window. And from then on, the average size of the 36 regular suites is 260 square feet without the balcony. And then the suites are, of course, larger. The 8 suites are larger, and they have actually huge terraces, which is unbelievable when you see the terraces on the suites. For another thing, for example, you saw a picture earlier of the infinity pool, which you can see up above there as well. And then just below, a couple of decks below, thank you, Carlos. That's amazing to have such a huge pool on a yacht. And then just a few decks below, you have our marina with the water sports equipment. And these yachts are built to be warm weather yachts, where the Eclipse yachts are built to cruise in cold polar weathers, and I have an ice hardened hull. This marina is oversized for her capacity, and we did that purposely to have everybody relax and enjoy the marina, which is very popular. You can see all the water toys. We have their kayaks, paddleboards, floating island, and the most fun thing to do is for people just to jump in the water from there and swim as we are off Portofino or Monaco or Caribbean island. I do want to point out one thing on this particular picture. That is the boat on the left that looks like it's trying to hit us. This is something very unusual that I have not seen on any other yacht, which I call it our ship to shore tender. And those of you that have been on cruise ships before, when the ship is at anchor, they usually use lifeboats. Well, lifeboats were built to save lives. They weren't built to be comfortable or fast. A lot of them are sort of almost enclosed. So what we have this very special boat that, as you can see here, is open on all 4 sides. So you get fresh air, you get light, and you get to enjoy the scenery. The other thing is it is very fast. It's about 3 times as fast as a normal lifeboat, and it has 29 actually comfortable seats. So that is what we use to transport guests from ship to shore when at anchor. Also, in addition, we have 2 Zodiacs. So there's some places where we actually land on a beach. So in this case, we would be landing with the Zodiacs. So we have the Zodiacs and we have this boat, which is something very unusual for passenger yachts.
Well, let me ask you this. So this standard boat, is it going inside the ship? So the people are boarding inside the ship?
Correct, Carlos. As you can sort of see there, right there, there's somebody walking from that tender boat into the ship. So there's a little bridge on the bow, on the front of the boat, over which you can then walk inside. And then once the ship is ashore, it actually comes alongside. So you would be then disembarking like you're more used to
Got it.
port or starboard side. And the way you see this picture here. So for example, when we are ready to sail, that little bridge you see there is put away, and there's a little crane that comes, lifts the front of the boat and pulls it into Azura, just like you see it here.
Got it. And regarding the experience itself, so obviously the ship, I mean, we can all see how beautiful, spacious, and amazing it is. But can we talk a little bit about the experience, the sailing experience? Can we talk about dining venues, or what's going on in the ship, on the ship while it's sailing, and as well as what's included and what's not included?
I'd like to start out with the dining, my favorite subject, where we have, I spoke about having 50 suites. So that is a maximum of 100 passengers. That is if every suite is filled with 2 guests. Now, we have a dining room. You see this gentleman there in a red bathing suit there, just above the word Emerald. Yep, that one. And that is actually the outdoor section of the dining room. Our dining room is really divided into three sections, sort of an indoor around the buffet, a middle section, and an outdoor section. And it can actually simultaneously hold 150 people. Now, remember, we really don't hold more than 150, but the dining room is so spacious, and we have open seating, so everybody finds a room whenever they want to come and eat. We also have a very large spa that is just great. I particularly love the infrared sauna. We have a wonderful bar where we have where we can do lectures. We have a screen that comes down, very spacious lobby, entranceway. We have 2 lifts, by the way. That is also very unusual, to have 2 elevators, as some people call it. And that elevator goes all the way to the top to our amazing sky bar, which is the black area right up on top there. And the bar, there's a bar there, there's a little jacuzzi. Really, really stunning a place to be when the ship is on the way or arrives in port. And then last but not least, I know I forgot something. There is, oh yeah, about the rooms. We have, as I said, 260 square feet upwards, and we have really nice bath. We do have showers that basically easily hold 2 people, so very spacious showers. And also, because it is a new ship, a new build, modern with technology, you will find electric plugs for your electronics everywhere. You have a espresso bar, tea kettle, umbrellas, bathrobes, slippers, refrigerator, mini refrigerator, you name it. I mean, it's all in there for you to enjoy.
Another thing, Claudius, that just to mention is about entertainment. So we do have the Amici Bar and Lounge, which is like the heart of the ship. And that's where everybody likes to meet and hang out, and we do some entertainment. Now, entertainment, it's not probably the norm that you experience. It's not the Jersey Boys or Grease or anything like that production. It's local flair. And what we try to do is to bring the local entertainers, whether it be bands, whether it be musicians, whether it be string quartets, or whatever the case is. We like to bring them on board. And remember, that tender that you see there, we have it on ship, so we can bring people in and out of the shore, and we bring them on to there to entertain you. As far as what's included, what's not, like I said at the very beginning, this is a very nicely included ship. What things that's included? Your transfers. Transfers are included whether or not you book your air through us or not. Also, gratuities are also included, not only for the crew that's on board the ship, but also your tour guides. Beer and wine at lunch and dinner also included. Now, we do have beverage packages for you to purchase, so you can get mixed drinks, etc. But to be honest with you, I went on an Emerald River cruise, and to me, the beer and wine was just fine with me. And most people, they need their Captain and Coke or something like that, which we do have those beverage packets available. And one of my personal favorites, up to 2 shore excursions per every stop. Now, these shore excursions are they're divided into two kind of activities. One is Emerald Active, and Emerald Active is for those that want to go hiking and biking, canoeing. And then you have the Emerald Plus, which is more like laid back, more like wine tasting, sightseeing, city tours, and those are included. Now, we do have other shore excursions that we have available, and that will be for a nominal price, which is average about 75 to 100 euros, depending, could be a little bit more, depending on where you are and what you want to do. So that's basically the overview of what's included on their Emerald yachts. The Emerald Sakara, which it's not here, it's actually going to launch in August. So definitely wanted to show you the itineraries. Again, Claudius is the mastermind of these itineraries. And one of the things is that we have here is the Venice to Dubrovnik itinerary. So Claudius, talk a little bit about it. It's very unique. And I know you have a little tidbit about Venice.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, let's start out there in Venice, which we visit frequently, either the beginning or the end of most voyages. One of the reasons is it has excellent air connections to the United States, nonstop flights, as well as good connections via Paris, London, Frankfurt, etc. But the great thing about Venice, and I don't know if some of you know this or not, Venice, as of last year, has severely restricted access to the city for cruise ships. And Emerald is one of the very few, and I'm talking about less than a dozen ships that can still actually sail through the heart of Venice and dock at a place called San Basilio. And from San Basilio, if I walk normally, I can be easily at St. Mark's Square in 25 minutes. If my wife and I walk together, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 hours, because you're going to walk past some beautiful cafes, restaurants, Gucci, Versace, you name it, lots of stores. So it's a great little walk. You can walk along the waterfront. You can walk. You'll walk across the Grand Canal. So our docking location for Venice is pretty much second to none. And all the other anything that's larger, it has to do with the air height as well. So if the ship is taller than 35 meters, you're not allowed to enter into the lagoon and sail past St. Mark's Square. I recently was on Azura sailing again past St. Mark's Square, and that 45 minutes or so experience is just unbelievable, sailing through the heart of Venice. So this is something, whenever you look at a cruise, and that includes Venice, you want to check if that ship is small enough to be able to sail through the heart of Venice, which the 95% of the ships no longer can do that. And then we sail along the very scenic coastal shorelines of Croatia. And some of these places maybe don't mean anything to you, but I can promise you that every single stop, there will be something really great, fun to see. Either we dock in the center of town, or we bring our ship-to-shore tender will bring you to the center of this little town, and they're all just beautiful little jewels. Most of the time when we sail, you can see the shoreline, and it's a wonderful day, a wonderful way to experience beautiful Croatia. Croatia has now been very popular for, I would say, for about the last 8 to 10 years. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend that you come and do so, because I've never met anybody that has done this cruise or these places that hasn't enjoyed them. And then we do stop in Dubrovnik, by the way, at the beginning or end.
What's interesting is that most, and we've had a lot of guests throughout the last few months that have been planning their summer vacation to Europe, and in most itineraries just skim through Croatia. And Croatia is such an amazing destination that, if you really want to experience Croatia the way you would in a true luxury yacht, this is the best way to do it. I love it. And so this is the plan for the summer. And then we move from Europe all the way to Central America. Talk to us about this amazing itinerary.
Yeah, before we do, Carlos, I just want to No, it's okay. Before, I definitely wanted to focus that we just don't do Italy and Croatia. We do a lot of other itineraries. We just picked out the most popular one, and the one that you saw there is sold out this year. We actually have to go next year, 2024, to get on that one. That's extremely popular because, again, Croatia is a hot destination. We do other itineraries. One of my personal favorites that wasn't featured there is leaving from Venice, going around the boot, hitting Sicily, and then going to Amalfi, Capri, and Sorrento, which, if you've probably been on a larger cruise ship, you have to dock in Naples and get a speedboat to get to these excursions. And you really can see mostly all three. But the ship, correct me if I'm wrong, Claudius, the ship does go into those three ports, into Sorrento, Capri, and he's shaking his head, and Amalfi Coast, which that's great. You don't have to wait for the speedboat or anything like that. It goes also to Sicily, it goes to France, it goes to Spain, it goes to Greece, Turkey, Black Sea, actually a lot. I saw an itinerary that went from Athens to Istanbul, hitting a lot of ports in Greece. And I've actually showed this itinerary to a lot of world travelers. I'm like, oh my, I did not know that, these ports existed. Like, what's there to do? Also down south, we go to Egypt, we go to Jordan, we cruise the Suez Canal, we go to Israel, we go to the Emirates. I think we're going to do possibly the Seychelles down the road. So we do a large variety of itineraries that are from 7, 11, sometimes even longer days. Claudius, any of those itineraries kind of something that you want to say, something that maybe a nice little tidbit that folks may want to know?
Yeah, obviously I'm very biased. I love all our little babies, our itineraries, and yeah, and again, to me, somebody that's been pretty much everywhere where our ships go, it really depends what you like. Some people are fascinated by the Greek Isles. I am fascinated by the Greek Isles, and since we're talking about them, there are so many beautiful islands outside of Mykonos and Santorini, everybody's favorite, that people enjoy once they get there. And I hear it so often that people say, hey, I loved Santorini, I loved Mykonos, but Paros and Naxos, those were really my favorites because they were less spoiled, less crowded. And so to see the Greek Isles on a small yacht like you see behind Andy, it's just very, very special. And I've also been standing ashore waiting for the tender, overhearing other people say, "Oh, I wonder which Russian oligarch owns that yacht." Not knowing that this is actually a small little cruise ship. So when this beautiful Emerald Azura or Sakara or our Eclipse, when they are in a port, I can tell you, people look at them. They are really drawn to this particular style and vessel. But with regards to the itinerary, as I said, I love going to the Caribbean in the winter, in November, December, January. I love going to Costa Rica, the Greek Isles, Western Mediterranean. This ship is small enough to pull into the port of Nice, for example, where you have also great air connections, and we can walk from there, from the berth. So wherever we go, the smallness of the physical size of the ship is great, while you can still enjoy the spaciousness on board. And again, it's a modern type of environment, yacht style, that is you really won't find. I don't really think we have a competitor, especially when you think about we're only talking about 50 suites. And you spoke about the entertainment. We do have we usually have a singer on board and a guitar player that supplements what we can source locally. And people are really never bored because, as I said, we have the spa, we have the outdoor areas, we have, of course, movie channels and everything else. And it's really about the relationship you form with your other travelers that really makes the entertainment. And you sit around in the dining room and have that wine, some really great wines we have included. So it's a totally different type of experience. And I have to say, honestly, if you're looking for bumper cars and rock climbing walls and stuff like that, no, we don't have that. It's about putting some books in your iPad and reading those while you're having a peaceful, while you're sitting peacefully on deck in front of Amalfi or Capri.
It's definitely that, definitely a very unique experience. And so that's why I want to also make sure we highlight that, that other itinerary that I had in the screen a second ago for Central America. So let me put
Yeah.
that one on the screen.
Yeah, let's talk about that one, because honestly, this is so I had to pick out my favorite Caribbean itineraries. And I say Caribbean, and again, with the Caribbean areas, we also visit the Central America and South America. Just to let you know, folks, we have a large, extensive itinerary for the Caribbean. We have the San Juan round trip that goes to Vieques Island. If you don't know a lot about Vieques, actually is where you find the bioluminescent bay, which we do have an excursion that goes there. We go to the French side of St. Martin, and we go through the Lesser Antilles and the ABC Islands. But the reason why I put this one here is because it always caught my eye, because when I think of rainforest, when I think of Costa Rica, I always think about just going there by land. And there's beautiful resorts there. You see the volcano, so forth and so on. But when I saw this itinerary that the Emerald yachts were doing, I immediately had to tell Claudia, it's like, hey, tell me a little bit about it, because honestly, it's something that I personally want to do, because I'm very interested always in the rainforest. So I'm not going to take his thunder. Claudius, talk to us about this beautiful itinerary in Costa Rica.
Thank you, Andy. We have a lot of starting in November of this year through March of next year. Both Emerald Sakara and Azura will be the newest, most beautiful yachts in the Caribbean and in that particular region here. And we have primarily 7-night itineraries, this one being an exception. But the one thing I want you to also look at is that we have itineraries that are combinable. So if you see a particular date that you like, always look at the week before and the week after, because chances are that itinerary on either end has totally different ports. So you can spend 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks on board without actually repeating a port of call. And on this particular itinerary here, this is a little different from Caribbean itineraries on the other side in the Atlantic, that this one, as you can see, sails along the Pacific coast of Panama and Costa Rica. And as Andy pointed out here, we have we visit Costa Rica similar like you would do with a bus tour, except our roads on the ocean are a lot less bumpy than the roads on Costa Rica shoreside, which tend to be not that well paved sometimes. But when you you fly into San Jose, then you transfer about an hour and 20 minutes to Punta Arenas on the coast, and then in Curu, Isla Tortuga, Quepos, Golfita, those are all gateways to the national parks that have come all the way down to the coast in Costa Rica. So usually in the morning, what we will have is a hike through the rainforest, the jungle, but we will also have time for swimming. They have some wonderful black sand beaches. Actually, Isla Tortuga has a wonderful white sand beach where we spend some time. Jabaco, again, you have that rainforest beach experience. Then you can't quite see it here in the slide. There's something called Darien National Park. We'll have an experience with the indigenous Indians at the forest there. And then we hit the Pearl Islands. San Jose is part of the Panamanian Pearl Islands. And then disembarking in Panama City, Panama. And again, very easy flight connection out of Panama as well as into San Jose, Costa Rica.
And then it continues on. Carlos, if you show the next slide a little bit, then it continues on into going to Colombia and through Barbados. So I just want to show this itinerary. I definitely want to keep on going as I definitely want to see the scenic eclipse. But again, the point being of these Caribbean cruises is that we just don't do beaches. And Claude, is really brief. I know you were talking about, that we use the zodiacs to go through some of these itineraries. We use the zodiacs, especially on this one that's on screen. So don't think that because you hear Caribbean, it's just going to the beach and having a cocktail, something like that. So we do other Caribbean itineraries. But let's jump to the next one, which is the scenic eclipse, because I definitely want to get to the surprise at the very end. And this is something very, very unique. because you have expedition, you have yacht combined into one, which make it the first discovery yacht in the industry. So one of the things I want to share with you about this one is that it's very different from the Azura and the Sakara, which we were talking about. This one, for example, holds 220, 23 passengers class. I'm not, or 20. I always get confused. One of those is about, let's say 225, about an average. In the remote areas like Antarctica and the Arctic, it's about 200. And the only reason why is because we're only allowed 100 people in Antarctica and the Arctic at one time. One of the things about the Scenic Eclipse, she is the James Bond of the ocean. She has 2 helicopters and a submarine. Carlos, if you switch to the next slide. No, actually, next one. There we go. This one is that you can experience anywhere on the Scenic Eclipse by the air, land, or sea. And now everything on the Scenic Eclipse is included. Everything, excursions, you have your drinks, everything. Now you're going to ultra luxury. The only thing that's not included on the Scenic Eclipse is going to be the helicopters and the submarine. And the reasons why is, you can imagine if it was included, we have a long line to get to the helicopter and the submarine. We do have butler service in every stateroom. The average size of the staterooms within the Scenic Eclipse is 350 square feet. So another thing about the Scenic Eclipse is that it has 9 dining venues, and technically you can count room service as your 10th, but 9 dining venues where you can have casual dining up to luxury formal dining. In our French restaurant Lumiere's, you can have champagne and caviar if you want to, and again, it's included. But if we jump to the next slide, Carlos, I definitely want to talk about the itineraries, especially getting to the first ever world premiere itinerary. We haven't shown this to the general public just yet, so you all are getting a sneak peek, and definitely if you want to book this itinerary, you can. But when we talk about these itineraries, I still want you to think that we go to other places. So we just do not do Antarctica and the Arctic. We go to all 7 continents. And by the end of this year, we'll have 2 ships. Actually, we're launching the other one in April, the Scenic Eclipse 2. And these 2 vessels are going to touch every continent in the world. But without further ado, Carlos, please look at the first itinerary here, because I definitely want clients to talk about the Antarctic itineraries. If you just go one slide over, I see it. One more slide. I'm sorry. One more. We'll go back to that one in a minute. No, next one. No, next one. So let's I know, and if you click on it, the itinerary should pop up. There we go. Okay, so before Claudius talks about this, let me just tell you that the Scenic Eclipse is a unique ship because, one, she does not need an anchor. She does not have an anchor and does not need anchor to dock anywhere. She uses her large stabilizers to stabilize the ship for us to stop anywhere we want to. This is for an example in Antarctica. But this one here, Claudius is going to talk to you about what other Antarctic cruise ships go to and what makes this different. So Claudius, please take us away. Talk a little bit about the Scenic Eclipse and this beautiful itinerary we're seeing in front of us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have, as Sandy said, we have 2 low noise Airbus 6-seater helicopters and an electric 6-seater submersible. And I am very biased towards Antarctica. It is the most incredible place in the world, even if you don't like the cold. It is breathtaking, and I used I used this sentence before, but anybody I've met that's been down there, and I've been doing this since the late 70s, that has been down there is just in awe of the beauty of Antarctica. Why doing it? Eclipse 1 is currently down there. She's doing her 2nd season in Antarctica. And there are, I think there's probably around 20 or so 22 different ships that go to Antarctica every year. And we have some major differences. First of all, like most companies, and again, this is something you want to check, we limit the capacity of this vessel to 200 people from a maximum of 228. And that's because of the regulations we are following down there for the environment. But this particular ship has 0-speed stabilizers, which make the crossing incredibly smooth. It is a fairly new invention, and those 0-speed stabilizers make an incredible difference crossing open waters.
Claudius, Ken was telling me that the stabilizers on the Scenic Eclipse are almost as big as of ones on one of the Royal Caribbean mega ships.
Correct. Yeah. So it's very, very stable vessel. But what's really making a huge difference compared to our competition, Antarctica is spectacular in many different ways. Like all the other companies, you know, everybody offers hikes in Antarctica. They offer zodiac excursions, paddle boarding, kayaking. We all do that. No other cruise line can offer you everything I just mentioned, plus the helicopters, plus the submersible. And you could find yourself early in the morning on a helicopter flight, seeing what you're seeing right here on this particular slide from above. Maybe just after lunch, you go kayaking, and then just before sunset, you could be sitting in the submersible going underwater in Antarctica. So no other ship can offer you on the water, below the water, and above the water with the helicopters, in addition to everything else everybody else offers. And when you go down to Antarctica, and most people only go once in their life, you want to do it all. And that is on top of having these huge suites and all those many dining venues on board that we have. No other ship has that. And I have sailed in Antarctica since the late 70s on the original Lindblad ships. So this is an incredible way to experience one of the most beautiful parts of this world.
Oh, Carlos, you muted.
I'm sorry. When the ship is not in Antarctica, what other destinations is it visiting?
The ship goes, it sort of has a schedule that in our northern winter, which is really November through March into February, she spends down in Antarctica. And then she makes her way up to the Mediterranean. She does a few Mediterranean cruises, but then really she heads north because she has the Polar 6 ice class. So she then spends our summer, our northern summer, up in the Arctic, and that could be Greenland, that could be, like you just pulled up here, Svalbard, Iceland, and anything up north where there is ice. And this particular itinerary here is much beloved by a lot of our guests because it is you have an excellent chance to see those little cuddly polar bears. You have a chance to see walrus, seals, reindeer, a lot of birds, a lot of different type of seabirds. It's full of wildlife, glaciers, nature hikes, zodiac cruising, icebergs, and also here on this particular itinerary, depending, you know, on the ice cap, in that, as you know, that changes every year, where you, on that particular map, you can see the words S, Svalbard, and sort of a bow. And we try to go as far north as we can to actually also reach the ice barrier. So we then let you, the ship will sail into the ice, and then we'll let you off, and you're able to walk on the ice. Again, it's not a guarantee. It all depends on the ice cap, but this is something we will always do. And anybody that loves Antarctica, they will absolutely adore being up there on the opposite end in Arctic, or vice versa. It's just a really great experience. But we also do the Norwegian fjords. We do some Scottish Isles, Ireland, anything, really anything in between the Arctic and the Antarctic, we touch upon.
The Northwest Passage. We also
Northwest
do that
Passage coming up.
to Alaska. Now, Carlos just pulled it up. So this is the world premiere itinerary. So Claudius was talking about, you know, going down to, you know, where Argentina, Ushuaia, going down. Now, a lot of our, there's a lot of cruise lines that does that itinerary. It goes into, goes cruises through into the Antarctic Peninsula to the Drake's Passage. But this one here, this is now, if you don't know kind of where you are, if you're kind of saying, well, is this what I think it is? Yes, it is actually going to Antarctica, by the way, through Australia and New Zealand. So Claudius, I am dying to hear, about this itinerary, because when I saw this, like, wow, this is not going to Antarctica on the western side, not the eastern side. So please talk a little bit about this itinerary.
This, there's several expedition cruise companies out there, and we have expeditions to Indonesia, Amazon, you name it. This is as remote of an expedition as you can get. It's probably the most remote you can get on the planet outside of going up in space with those Bezos companies, etc. So if you want to go to the most remote part of the world, this is probably it. And this is a true expedition. When we do Antarctica from the South American Ushuaia side, it's an expedition, but it is somewhat in a more controlled environment. Once we get down there, we go from the South Shetlands to the peninsula. It's I don't want to call it routine or standard, because each day is different. But on this particular itinerary, every single day is a true expedition where you really don't know what we're going to do, where we're going to see, because it all depends on the ice edge. And that particular area to the left of the Ross Sea and to the right of the Ross Sea has some massive glaciers. Sometimes in the news you see a story about a massive glacier the size of Manhattan carving off the ice shield. This is where most of that stuff happens. And when you stand in front of in a zodiac in front of these glaciers that are 100+ feet tall, it is spectacular. There will be penguins, there will be albatrosses, which if you've never seen them in flight, it is spectacular. But what's also fantastic here is there is an incredible amount of history attached to that. There will be plenty of sea days also for you to read up on it, and there is a great number of wonderful books to read. Particularly, I want to highlight Roald Amundsen, who was the first person, I think it was 1911, to reach the South Pole. And he did so from the Bay of Whales there. And almost exactly at the same time, there was Robert Scott. He also tried to be the first person on the South Pole, and there was a race, and there's some incredible books about the history. And then when you go down there, and hopefully we can land and see the huts they used. And when you read these books, and there's also actually some movies out there as well, some documentaries, I highly recommend that you look into the history of Robert Scott and Ernest Shackleton. He was down there, and Roald Amundsen. It's incredible. It's spellbinding. And when you have this amazing history with this hauntingly beautiful, austere scenery, there is just really nothing else in the world like it. Plus, we have two other great things down there, which we hope to see. Mount Erebus, which is the southernmost active volcano in the world, which is just north of the Ross in U.S. Antarctic Station. And then on the west there, you can see the Scott Coast. There is something called the Dry Valleys. And the Dry Valleys, it's amazing because you're surrounded by tons and tons of ice and snow and glaciers, and these valleys are dry. There is no glaciers, no snow, no ice, and it's something really amazing to experience after seeing days and days of ice and snow. So a lot of things to see, a lot of things to do. I'm sorry?
When are you going there? When is Scenic?
The season there is mid-December through third week of February. It's a really short season. The season
23.
there, yeah, sorry, 25. Yeah, 24.
25.
We start December 24. We only have 3 departures. There's only 3 departures because the season is so short because of the weather and the ice. And so for example, we will try to make a landing at the Antarctica station, McMurdo Station. But again, we cannot promise, we cannot guarantee it for 2 reasons. A, the ice in the Ross Sea will have had to retreat it far enough for us to break through. But sometimes what can happen is when you get there, the supply ship they only get supplies about twice a year during that time. So if the supply ship for McMurdo Station happens to be there offloading, then we have to we cannot come alongside. We have to use our Zodiac. So it's an expedition. Every single day is just stunning, breathtaking, and as I said, the remoteness. One other thing I do want to mention, I hope I have whetted your appetite for that, because this is bragging rights going on one of these expeditions. There's only about 3 or 4 ships that do it. None is as modern, as new as ours. And the other thing is you have to be in excellent health, because once we take off from New Zealand, we also have a trip that ends in Tasmania. There is it's very, very difficult to get help. We have a hospital, we have a doctor, we have nurses. However, if there's anything serious, we need you to sign a certificate, basically a statement that you are in excellent physical health. That's how remote this place really is. It is stunning, and I highly encourage you to read up on the amazing Ross Sea and all those explorers, and Amundsen, he made it to the South Pole and he made it back, where Robert Scott, unfortunately, he made it to the South Pole a few weeks later after Amundsen, but unfortunately he did not return. He froze to death, quite literally.
Wow.
A lot of history. a lot of history, and I get this is, and I see this itinerary, Carlos, and I see like, well, this is for those itinerary collectors, those that say I've been everywhere, I've been this, I've been here, but this itinerary is something that, wow, it's once in a lifetime.
We definitely have many clients that tell us literally have been every single place in the world, and what's new. So this is pretty cool. I thank you so much for sharing this. I do have some questions, and I know that we're going a little bit over 4. So I have some questions in the chat that I want to make sure that we address. So again, and by the way, for all of you that are here with us today, if there's anything else that you want us to elaborate more on, please let us know, and let me know. Stop me, interrupt me, okay? So Judy was sharing with us that she does small vessels. That's fantastic. We love it. Definitely interested in the sub-Antarctic island Ross Sea, and also Scenic Japanese island trip this July. So Judy, we'll make sure we connect with you and help you take care of that. Want to hear about all of them? Our next cruise is the whole Mississippi in June. Sorry, not Emerald. Well, Emerald doesn't sail the Mississippi anyway, so you're good. You're forgiven. But hopefully you'll give Emerald or Scenic an opportunity on any other river around the world. Let's see. Mark was asking, can you touch on Dubrovnik, Adriatic itinerary, and Emerald Azura? Mark, I believe that we did already. I think you asked that question before we went on that slide. Do you have any more questions on that, Mark?
I was just curious, because I know Emerald and Scenic, I think for most of their stuff, they do a normal fare, an early bird, and a super early bird. I'm just kind of looking at some of the stuff out in 24. Stuff is already booking up. They don't have any super early bird in the event we wanted to book in 25. I know that seems like a long time out, but just curious, because some of the cabins are already booked, and I don't want to stay in just an ocean view stateroom. I want something a little more than that, obviously. But I see some things already sold out. So I guess I would say brevity might be, a friend at this point in time. And then, are you guys doing any super early bird specials, so to speak?
So Mark, I would tell you that we are we're going to get away a little bit away from that. The super early birds and the early birds, we're actually going to trying to get out of it. We have a promotion right now that we're offering more incentives, such as free flights, premium beverage packs, and additional savings. We've seen that has been working for us. So that's probably one of the reasons why you don't see the super early bird special, but we do have the early bird. I think we still have the 10% off, but definitely like to continue on the conversation with you to give you the exact details. Just let your travel advisor at Luxury Cruise Connections to reach out to me, and we can definitely take this offline.
Yeah.
Mark,
very good.
just a little hint, Mark. When we're
Yes, sir.
talking about the Emerald yachts, I mentioned earlier, we have 50 suites, 6 of them with a window, 36 with a terrace, and then we have 8 suites. We have, out of those 8 suites, there are 2 owner suites facing forward. They are really spectacular, amazing, beautiful big suites. My personal favorites, we have 4 suites that actually face aft, that are a little bit smaller, a little bit less expensive, but you should look at them. We online, of course, we have pictures of them, but I love those aft facing suites. They're just really, really special. If you don't want to go for the owner suites up front, those are my favorites. The 4 suites facing aft on deck 6 and 5.
So that must be the yacht suite then on the, if we're on the aft.
They're really nice.
Okay.
Those suites.
Okay, I've just got to find a date where there's something like that available. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Mark, and we'll help you. I mean, obviously, that's also our job to get our hands dirty and help you find the right availability. Since we are talking about pricing, we did forget to mention that all of you guys that attended today's event are eligible to receive a special event promotion of $250 savings. So it's a discount on your next booking. Not obviously not applicable to existing bookings, but this is to incentivize hopefully new business for Emerald and Scenic. So applicable for any Emerald and Scenic, and that's available for you guys for the next 2 weeks. But aside from that, and real quick on this note, so we have Scenic Eclipse 1, we have Scenic Eclipse 2, we have Emerald Azura, and we have Emerald Zakara. Are there any other ships in maybe these might not be public information yet, so I don't know if you can talk about it, but is there anything else? And nothing that we can announce. Okay. So, but things may be announced, maybe not for 24, but later on.
Stay tuned. I gotta say, stay tuned.
You guys are doing so well that I couldn't imagine you guys not releasing more inventory and not opening this up to more people. So
remember, we have the newest, most yachts out there. Azura was launched in 2022. Sakara is launching in August of 2023. And then Eclipse was launched in 18, but she really didn't get going until after COVID. And we have Eclipse number 2 coming on in April, and they're all on time. So we have really 4 brand new modern yachts with the latest equipment, the latest technology. We talked about the stabilizers. We talked about the dynamic positioning where we don't, for example, when these ships go in the warm weather expedition, like on coral reefs in the Great Barrier Reef, we don't need to drop the anchor. And that gives us an edge also, because environmentally, we are much more welcome if the locals know we're not going to drop an anchor on their beautiful reef. We just use the dynamic positioning system.
exactly. Okay, that's very cool. And then Judy was saying I've primarily been on okay, I'm sorry, I skipped this one. Compare Scenic to AMA, why Scenic? Warren, that's a question that 100% has to do with river. So I'm gonna put that aside just for 1 second, just so that we can stay focused on ocean, but then I'm gonna come back to your question at the end, okay? Because AMA Waterways is a river cruise line, and so obviously we're talking about river there.
Hey, Carlos?
Yeah.
I just want to say something, since I cruised on the Scenic Eclipse in October, and I've mentioned this to Andy. For people who don't know me, I've been in the industry 43 years. I've been on numerous cruise lines, and without a doubt, the furniture on board the Scenic Eclipse was the best I've ever seen. First of all, the beds have remote controls on both sides of the that you can move your bed yourself, a higher head or higher legs or something like that. I've never seen that on any other ship. And if you're going to the lectures and or the entertainment in the theater, you want to sit in the middle, because the middle seats have the reclining seats, so it lifts up your leg and you can also recline back. And it was the best furniture of any ship I've ever been on. So thumbs up, double.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Steve.
comments, and
Thank you,
you
Steve.
sometimes have to wake people up and stop snoring.
Yeah,
during the
that's true.
lecture, so-
That's true because they're so comfy.
Let's put it this way. I wanted to take one of those beds home, and the middle seats, I mean, they were fantastic. And yes, it's very relaxing, the theater.
So, okay, so thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. Going back to the questions in the chat. Judy was saying, I have primarily been on Silver Sea Expedition Cruise Traveler, but have been very disappointed with them lately and won't be traveling with them again. Trying Ponant Ushuaia to Lytton Cruise next January. I've heard great things about Scenic Expedition Cruises and would love to know how Scenic differs from the other high-end expeditions line. Judy, a couple of things that are important to mention. All of the luxury expedition cruise lines are going to do, they all have their pros and cons. Everybody out there is trying to do their best with the limited amount of crew that the cruise lines are able to source at this point. But to kind of and stop me, keep me real, guys. But I think that one of the main differences between the Scenic and Silver Sea Expedition is, unless even if you sailed on the new Silver Sea Endeavor, they no longer have the helicopter nor the submersible. So that's an added thing that it used to be that when Crystal used to own the Endeavor, they had a helicopter and submersible, but since Silver Sea acquired it, they did away with them. And they're not operating those. And at this point, there's only one other cruise line out there that has submersibles, which is Seabourn with the Venture and Pursuit, but doesn't have helicopters. So Scenic has those options, both the helicopters and the submersibles. Keep me real here.
You're going so far.
Okay. But in terms of level of service and in terms of level of cuisine, I mean, you guys are at the top of that right?
You're right, Carlos. One of the things that I sailed on the cruise, or we both sailed on the Crystal Endeavor together when she was there. And one of the things I noticed about the Crystal Endeavor was that it looked like a cruise ship. It didn't feel expedition, and it had its dining venues. So I took that experience. I put it recorded in my head. Then I went on the Scenic Eclipse, and the Scenic Eclipse is that times 100. Because one of the things that I noticed about the Scenic Eclipse is that she has the 10 dining venues, or the 9 dining venues, one being your room service. So that honestly in itself puts us in the pinnacle of the luxury experience on expedition. We had the finer restaurants, the more casual restaurants. We also have the gyms, the spa in itself. Now, on the Endeavor, the spa were just 3 or 4 rooms. This spa is a whole section of the ship where you have now a bunch of spa rooms. You have the saunas. You have a plunge pool in the spa. You have a section that's just for Pilates, for yoga, for TRX, and then you have your gym. So talking about having the ocean cruise experience on an expedition ship, and that's why we don't use expedition, we use discovery, because really it's not an expedition ship, it's a discovery cruise ship. It's honestly a whole different experience on its own.
I do want to go back to the dining experience, and again, I've sailed on the ship for quite a number of nights, and I mentioned earlier I love to dine. So one night you're going to our champagne bar, and then you're sitting in a small 40-guest French restaurant where the menu changes every 3 days. The next night I could be sitting at the sushi bar. The next night I could be sitting at the 12-seat chef's table. The next night I could be sitting in our French restaurant, which holds about 80 people. Sorry, not the French one, the Italian Mediterranean restaurant, Italian, yeah. Or the next night, I could be sitting at the night market, which holds eight people. So, and I've just mentioned a few of our dining ranges. And by their nature, expedition cruises tend to be longer cruises. So to have all these dining options, Andy and I were talking about, just makes a huge difference. But we also have a buffet. If you want just casual buffet, you can also have a buffet. We have a little cafe, the Azura Cafe, where you get fresh homemade pizza on board, and you get burgers, and so there is something for everybody, and and you don't feel like eating a 8-course, 10-course French meal every dinner. So that is what really makes us on top of the helicopter and the submersible. Sorry, Carlos.
No, I want to add there, just two seconds, because, we've been talking a lot about expedition lately here at our company. And, to put everything in perspective, kind of, if we really think of how this whole world of expedition cruising started, I mean, it's been around for a long time, but up until the last 10 years, it's been true expedition. Like anybody that would think about going to Antarctica, all they would care about was to go see the penguins. And they knew they were going to have a bad time, and very uncomfortable trip, because all they cared about was to go see the penguins. Now, this entire world of luxury expedition starts to explode. And all of a sudden, people that otherwise never would have thought of visiting Antarctica now have the opportunity to do it in a much comfortable way. And people underestimate the importance of being comfortable on a trip to Antarctica, for example, because the reality is that there are several days where you have to stay on board the ship. I mean, first of all, the Drake Passage is going to be 2 days going, 2 days coming back. Once you get off and do your Zodiac or your landing or whatever, then you come back to the ship, and then what do? Like, if there is nothing to do on the ship, it'll be, if you're really not into penguins, then you're not going to have a lot of such a good time. So the fact that you have such a, if you really think about it, this wasn't there before. The last 10 years is when just the opportunity of just being able to be very comfortable while, exploring very remote places of the world came about. So,
yeah. One last thing, Carlos, I want to add here, and to that is that, we made this experience, for especially the Drake's Passage. By the way, keep me honest here, Claudius. I heard Jason, our discovery team director, we crossed the Drake's Passage in a day and a half, not 2 days. Yeah, a day and a half. So we try to get to the island, to the peninsula faster, and we can, because she was built for the Drake's Passage.
And what happens with other ships that don't have the stabilizers like the one that you do, like you can decide, you can take off whenever you guys want. If the itinerary said that you're going to leave at this time, you can do so, even if the water's a little rough, because of the stabilizers. Many other ships that don't have stabilizers have to really time it out and wait until the waters are okay, so that it's a comfortable ride. So that gives you that also important edge that most people don't even notice.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention about crossing the Drake Passages, and I've done it many times, and I've done it, it was like a lake, and I've done it when it was rough. The importance of having those first 2 days, there are multiple reasons for that, but most importantly is you get to know the ship, but we have briefings every single day, several briefings where you not only hear about the history, the lectures, but we have briefings about the helicopters that last over an hour. We have briefing about the submersible that lasts for an hour. And these are briefings that tell you about the machines as much as about the safety. And we have briefings about how to get in and out of Zodiacs, how to wear how to dress for a kayak excursion or for a paddle excursion. And those are in the theater, in the cushy seats, with our expedition staff of 20 people or so, showing you the gear you put on. And so you're going to spend those 2 days actually going to be quite busy attending lectures in the morning and in the afternoon.
Sure, for sure. Judy, I saw you were unmuting yourself earlier. Did you want to ask us something else?
Oh, sorry. No, what I was going to say is we were in that answer, we were talking a lot about hotel services, and I was actually more asking about the expedition services, which largely you answered during the presentation. But Andy, Claudius, if you could just speak a little bit about the expedition staff or adventure staff, whatever you like to call it.
Discovery team,
yeah. Discover to guest ratio, kind of more about I've done a lot of, what I guess everyone else calls expedition travel. And, so I'm kind of the hotel services, I understand. I just, what makes you different on the expedition services, although certainly the helicopter and the submarine are relatively unique. So thank you. And you did explain that.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. So specifically, how many expedition guides do you have?
We usually carry about 20 people, now give or take 1 or 2 because of illness or whatever, but usually 20 people. And we have it is unique for us because, and unfortunately we didn't have this slide here, but we have one slide that really explains what goes on when you are with Scenic in Antarctica. Because that one particular slide, you will see people standing at the marina, getting in and out of kayaks, some people on a paddleboard. You see the helicopter flying above, and in the distance you can see people getting on and off the submersible. So there's all this action going on, and it's really lively, and it's a lot of fun to be able to do all these different things. And as I said, in between the helicopter and the coasters and the paddleboards, we have Zodiac cruises through the glaciers, and we also do the hikes ashore. So, or on ice, as you saw that picture earlier. So we really we do it all, and because of that equipment, we can give you much more down in Antarctica, and that's what the expedition staff is busy doing.
So I want to give our audience an opportunity to understand or to gain confidence on the level of experience when it comes to expedition, because like we're saying, there's a lot of expedition opportunities out there. There's a lot of expedition companies, expedition cruise lines, and some of them are hardcore expedition, right? There's companies that have been doing this for decades and decades, that all they've done is expedition to Antarctica. And then here comes this new brand that says we can do expedition. Let's give our audience the necessary certainty about the level of expertise in expedition, and what type of expedition experience can they actually expect?
Yeah, so the first off, Carlos, our captain comes from Panat, and our captain knows, how to navigate where are the kind of the best kind of the landscape of the land. He knows where to go. Our discovery team, we talked about Jason. Jason, our captain, our kind of lead, I say captain, but leader of the discovery team, has been in the business in expedition. He's done expedition for such a long time, and on board these 20 staff, are naturalists, they're biologists, they're marine biologists. I never knew glaciology. It was a thing until I met these folks. So what they do on the Zodiacs when you go into these remote areas, and we're going to talk about the other itineraries here in a few, but they are storytellers. They tell you, well, the animals are here because of this. These glaciers are formed this way and are shaped this way because of this reason. We're going through these passages because of this, and they tell you a story about why, when, if, everything that's going on around you. Because keep in mind, going to Antarctica, even the Arctic, you don't have a map. It's kind of like, we start here and here's all the landmarks. We don't have that. You don't have that. It's our discovery team that actually does that for you, and they're part of that. They take care of the environment. So there's a picture actually of a bird actually landing on one of our discovery team's head, and he doesn't do anything. They don't want to disrupt what's going out there. Their level of expertise, again, I don't have that stand in front of me, but I'm telling you, they've been so many years in their field that they've come here to kind of give the experience out to our guests.
I think the other thing I want to mention there real briefly, Carlos, yes, there's other expedition companies out there, but we have the newest ships and all that equipment, and the vast majority of the expedition staff on any ship, they're freelancers. They're not employees of each of these expedition companies. The vast majority are freelancers, and they can pick and choose which ship they want to go on. And I can assure you, they love also because the expedition staff, although they're working, but remember, they get to interact with you because they have passenger cabins and they eat in the dining room. So they will interact with you on the ship. You can, when you see them somewhere, you can stop them. We have an open bridge policy where you can talk to the staff. But the point I'm trying to make is that the expedition staff, every season, they can decide, I want to work on that company, this company. And because we have these new ships, because we have the helicopter, the submersible, they tend to like Scenic.
They stay with us. Now, here's one thing really briefly, because I know we're really getting over time, is that even though we have 20 on the remote areas, we're talking about Antarctic and talking about the Arctic, we still have some in the other itineraries as well. So you're going to see in our brochures, you see the expeditions, you're going to see hybrids, so expedition and yacht. And we have those expedition team in those itineraries. So even though you're in Europe in the Mediterranean, and you're in Lisbon, we're going to have 5 of those discovery team, because we try to do at least an expedition excursion. So something off the beaten path.
And Carlos, I just want to add something to what Claudia said about the captain and all that. He is very accessible. When I was on the Scenic Eclipse, he invited me into, they were docking, and I was able to take a video, which was quite interesting, of docking, watching him and the staff docking the ship, and it was really cool. And I will say this, for anyone who's worrying about service, and I think Andy and Claudius, when we got to the ship, and I've never seen this with any other cruise line, there were around 15 staff outside waiting for us. And then once we got inside into the lounge, there were around 15 to 20 there ready to take us to our suite and assist us there. I mean, the service was incredible.
Good. All right, cool. Let me. I'm gonna keep going with the questions, because it's if anybody wants me to talk more about anything else, let me know. But otherwise, I'm gonna keep going, because I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. Alan, first of all, thank you for trusting us. He says he will finally be taking the Eclipse to Antarctica this December. I know that we're going to be seeing you, Alan. I won't, but Steve and Mike will be seeing you soon up in North Carolina. Thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to share about our company with your neighbors. Bernard is sharing with us, we thoroughly enjoyed a scenic river cruise last autumn, and we are booked for Southeast Asia cruise next January. Can we choose our own specific flights itinerary to Southeast Asia? Can we upgrade to premium economy for a reasonable cost? What happens if our luggage doesn't arrive in Hanoi, and when we start our trip? You want to?
Yeah, so brief, Carlos, again, but we're going to do kind of a lightning round on this one.
Yeah.
So Bernard, the answer to your question, yes, you can choose your own flight itinerary. You can do custom air. We do not charge for custom air. That's something that you definitely get with your travel advisor at Luxury Cruise Connections and set that up. Can you upgrade your premium economy? Yes. Again, get with them. They will tell you exactly what the cost is. What happens if your luggage doesn't arrive in Hanoi? What we do is, again, we try to carry, our people will carry your luggage to the ship. So if you cannot, if it's just gone, if it's missing, we'll have someone there, always there in Hanoi. We'll get it. We'll take it to the next port so you can meet with it. Going back to the other one about AMA and Scenic. So think about, I always compare it to cars. AMA it's premium plus, Scenic is luxury. So if you have a Lexus and you have an Aston Martin, that's the big difference. The difference also is that Scenic includes everything. AMA does not.
Okay, that's a good comparison. Judy, I have another question for you regarding solo travelers. Do you have any events going on aboard the ships for solo travelers?
Yes,
I
we do.
mostly travel alone, so when I'm going for a month or something, it's nice if there's like a little host for solo travelers or something like that.
We don't, Judy, we don't call it like a solo travel party like some cruise lines do, but we like to, since we're very small, we like to also integrate with everyone, and people just mix and mingle. They talk to each other, that. So you might see other singles. We do have a 125 reduced single sub on all of our vessels to include Scenic Eclipse and the Azura and Sakara. Get with your Luxury Cruise Connection person. They'll tell you which sailings are applicable.
Okay, thank you.
Very cool, thank you. Cheryl is asking us, Cheryl, thank you for being here with us again. Good day. Do any of your ships have thalassotherapy people?
Not that I know of, Claudius. I don't think we have any. No, we don't have.
Steve commenting on the fact that Dubrovnik, for those Game of Thrones fans, Dubrovnik is an amazing place to go to, for sure. Thank you, Steve, for that comment. Do you anchor in the middle of the ocean for people to enjoy the marina, not being close to the port?
Yes, on both Eclipse and Azura and Sakara, yes, we do. We on the days at sea, you see days at sea, it's not the regular days at sea you'll find on a cruise ship. These days at sea have sometimes something that we do, either be a private beach party, or we are in the middle of the ocean so you can get out into the water toys. There are sometimes things that we do. It's not usually scheduled because, as Claudia has alluded to, it depends on weather, depends if we can or not. So yes, but to answer your question, yes, we do.
Okay, cool. Robert, sorry, Robert, we're talking about different itineraries and we didn't have a map for every single one of them. There's a lot of itineraries that Scenic and Emerald, it's just very, very different itineraries. They don't do the same itinerary back and forth. But Robert, we're gonna get with you. I actually have to connect with you personally very soon. We'll talk about, we can send you more information on other itineraries if we can.
And we do have book brochures that your travel advisor, Robert, can give you that tells you all the map and everything that what we do.
Excellent. Judy will take care of you for Seychelles. As soon as those itineraries come out, we'll be sure to reach out to you for those. Bernard, do you have transatlantic itineraries?
Yes, there's actually one on the Azura and the Sakara coming from Lisbon down to Barbados and then reverse. So that comes down in early November, I think, Claudius, if I'm not mistaken, early November. And then in April, when we're done with the Caribbean, it goes from San Juan, I'm going to go off of memory, back to Lisbon. So yes, we do. And that's on the Sakara. Eclipse, we actually have one, Claudius. I think I saw it, maybe I'm confused for last year. I think it was Rio to Lisbon, if I'm not mistaken, on the Eclipse. Yeah,
we have Buenos Aires, Rio, and then Rio, Lisbon, and the same thing reverse. So we do have some South America itineraries. I actually like the route from Buenos Aires to Rio or vice versa, because I've got some pretty cool ports included there, and I love Rio and Buenos Aires because you have plenty of great flight connections. You can use frequent fly miles because you have United, Delta, American. They all fly down there. And what I also like about doing this South America, Rio, Buenos Aires, and even Antarctica is because it doesn't matter if you're on the West Coast or the East Coast or like me in St. Louis, there's very little time difference. There's usually only 1 or 2 hours of time difference. So when you go to Antarctica or the South America itineraries, there's no jet lag, which is of course great.
Very cool. Alan had a question on the submarine, the submersible. Do you need a Zodiac do you need a Zodiac to, I guess, do you need to Zodiac and board at sea? Are there physical limitations to board that ship? I imagine you mean the submersible.
Yeah.
Like in the summer, only if it's persons to board it to moving from the Zodiac to the sub. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. So was there a question if I'm not sure there was a
how do you
It's like,
how do you-
how do you
okay,
board the
yeah,
sub?
okay. So what happens is that the sub is built to go vertical. It does very poorly going horizontal, move forward or aft. So what we normally do is we put the sub in the water where it's going to dive, and then the ship moves off a little bit, and you have to get into the Zodiac and you take the Zodiac to the submersible. And on the submersible, there's a little bit of a platform. So what happens is on that platform, you swing your legs onto the platform. There are 2 people there helping you. And then you literally, like in a submarine, like you see in the movies, you have to lower yourself down into the submersible where you need a little bit of arm strength to hold yourself. You swing your legs in. I'm not the skinniest guy in the world, but there are limitations in terms of your width going down. But yeah, it's not tricky or anything. As I said, there are 2 people helping you off the Zodiac into the hole, and then once you're in the sub, there's 3 seats on the left, 3 seats on the right. There is the driver in the middle. Now, when you basically put your feet on the driver's seat, and then you either move to the left or you move to the right. I'm claustrophobic, but the submersible is not at all claustrophobic because both sides have this massive plexiglass surrounded, so it's easy once you're in there. But yeah, you need to have a certain mobility. And then of course the same thing out. When you come from that side, you have to get onto the seat of the driver, stand up, and then basically there is sort of like a really mini ladder. You climb up the mini ladder, and then once you're on top, there's people to help you out. So there is some mobility required for the submersible. For a helicopter, is very easy, no problem at all.
The reason I asked the question, I was actually on the sub this summer on another line, and they had restrictions. I had no problem with it. I loved it. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience. The challenge was that they had people do some testing. They had to be able to stand up on like a stage and be able to stand up and get onto the Zodiac. When we went out in the Zodiac, the water was pretty rough. I mean, they anchored everything together, and there's a lot of movement on there. And the challenge was for some people who are not physically fit, that's not my issue. They were concerned that they may not be strong enough to be able to stand up. My wife, for instance, really wants to do the submarine, and she was very disappointed this summer that she couldn't do it. That was the purpose of the
Because
question.
nobody was there to help you.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, yeah, you have to be able to stand, because when you sit in a Zodiac, what happens is actually the first thing is you have to take off your, you step from the Zodiac onto that little platform, and we actually have a little bench there. You can actually sit down on a little bench, and then you have to remove your life jacket. And then you lower yourself, you swing your legs into the round hole, and then you lower yourself. So, and when it's rough, yeah, it's a little tricky when it's rough. As I said, we have 2 people standing there, 2 expedition leaders or officers that will help with the whole process. But it is slow in somewhat, and it's a little bit time consuming. But again, there is physical mobility required, as you said, Alan. And again, it all depends also how rough it is, you know. I've done it in rough. I've done it when it's calm. I've also done night dives in the submersible, which are totally amazing. So,
Will they do any training on the ship? You know, you have this couple of days. So last time they taught you how to get on and off the Zodiacs.
Yeah.
That's really beneficial.
yeah,
for
we
people who are-
definitely have that for every equipment, everything. We have that real practical, you know, information. So for example, when we do the kayaking, we actually have our staff out there in the lecture hall with the wetsuit and everything, how to put it on and show you exactly, because the more you know before you do it, the faster the process happens once you actually get into the kayak. So, and that's why I said earlier, when we do the 2 days crossing on the Drake Passage, they're full with lectures and practical lectures that are also at the same time interesting. And quite often, you know, people come on board and say, oh, I'm never going to do a paddle board, or I'm never going to do a kayak. But after they watch the presentations, they actually end up doing it.
Yeah.
One last question. How deep is the sub going to go?
The sub can go 100 meters, 300 feet.
Okay.
And I will also tell you that we almost never go that deep because it's not really necessary. Yeah, usually we go down, I would say about 30 meters, 40 meters. Sometimes, depending where we are, we only go down 20 meters because you're able to see something.
And how long is-
I did a lot of dives in the Seychelles. We went like 22, 23 meters and I saw a ton of fish. So there was no need to go. And the other advantage is by not having to go so deep, when once the submersible is underwater and you go horizontal, you know, you tend to see more, versus when you go vertical just to gain depth, you don't see that much usually.
Alan, 30 to 45 minutes is to answer your question. 30
Okay,
to 45
thank you.
minutes, depending it. I do want to share right quick, Carlos, if I may, and the picture that that Claudius was talking about. And this is right here what he was talking about, that we have the helicopters and we have there's our staff right here helping you getting on the kayaks and the paddle boards and everything. So this is what he was talking about. And our staff is right here. There's the captain, right? Not the captain, our officers right here looking, Zodiacs, everything. So there are people always trying to help you when you get on, you know, the kayaks and everything.
Can you go back to the picture, please, Andy?
Yeah.
And you see those two guys standing on the submersible. You see that white thing there with the 2 guys? That is the submersible they're standing on. The only thing we don't show in this particular picture is the polar plunge. We also do a polar plunge where yep, thank you. And that is a lot of fun.
And very cold.
And very cold.
And we
yes,
do
but
give you a
worth it.
certificate, by the way.
But
We do
worth
give you a
it.
certificate.
I
Yes, we
don't
do
know.
give you a certificate.
That's great. Okay, all right. I have more questions, so let me make sure I get to them. And by the way, if anybody has to jump off, we will send a recording of this presentation to everybody. So this meeting. So if anybody has to jump off, it's okay. We'll make sure that you get you know, the recording. Okay, Judy, I'm gonna. I see a comment, but I don't know if we already answered it. Let me know if you need us. This is on the 3 departures, which do you recommend is giving the best possibility of getting into places you want to go? Did we cover that already? Are we
No,
good?
we didn't.
Talk to me. What do you want to know?
Just of those three, Andy said there's 3 departures from the sub-New Zealand islands. Sorry about the sound effects.
Okay.
Which of the 3, given the risk of the ice shelf and everything else, which of the 3 gives you the best shot at getting in where you want to go?
That's the Ross Sea, right, Judy?
Yeah,
You're
it's
muted.
usually like Dunedin to Dunedin or something like that.
Well, is he still muted?
Sorry. I would say probably the best chances are the January departure.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good. And then,
Thank you all.
what's that?
I do have to jump off after that. So thank you all, and I'll look forward to seeing the rest on the recording. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to traveling with you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Judy.
you.
And Valerie had a question. Any single cabins on any of the ships? What single supplement? So Valerie, no single cabins, but 125% single supplement discounts on many opportunities. So I know both Judy and Valerie are interested in that. So we'll make sure we send you the list of those that have those special single
Look,
supplements.
on the river cruises, we do have single
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
single cabins. Right. On the oceans we don't, rivers we do.
Okay, and I have a private question. Now this is stuff, but you know, it's my duty to read all of them. So I'll ask. So Simon Kelly, one of our guests today, was I guess we're trying to get a hold of your team earlier in the year, and experienced long haul times, and you know, had issues with you know, getting their flight sorted out and so forth and so on. Was trying to update the flight plans, and I guess there's a lot of issues with you know, with trying to work things out with the call center at Scenic. Simon, I must say that I don't believe this was correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this was a booking that we had to handle. But I want you guys to know, and I want to say this because I'm a third party. I'm you know, I don't work for Scenic. Scenic doesn't pay me to say this, but Scenic was the victim of a very unfortunate technology situation several months ago, where unfortunately their systems got I don't know how can we say this? They were
There was a cyber incident that had our systems kind of, I was compared to Jurassic Park, you know, that everything, we shut down everything for security, we turned it back on and things were not working the way we're supposed to. Now, the thing is that, you know, things are changing. We have a new, we have a new captain in the helm, for example, and one of his priorities is to get things going on. Now, trust me when I say this, that if you experience something like that and you haven't had a travel advisor, especially with LCC, with Luxury Cruise Connections, definitely get with them, because they're the ones that honestly will contact someone like me. So situation, and we know we have a lot of hold times. Actually, I would tell you that almost all companies have long hold times right now, especially with promotions come out. There's a lot of people that want to travel, but get with your travel advisor. Trust me, Carlos, the team, they basically text me. They sometimes text me at 4 o'clock in the morning. Carlos like, hey, where's these people's documents? I'm just teasing. He doesn't do it 4 o'clock in the morning, more like 6 in the morning. No, I'm just teasing. But that's kind of the relationship that we have. So it definitely, if you have something that, again, I'm not going to stand here. I'm one of those people that tell you, I'm not going to stand here that everything is picture perfect. It's not. We know there are some bumps on the road, bumps in the seas per se, just like a regular cruiser. Sometimes a little bit of turbulence that we have to go through. This is kind of our little turbulence. It will ease its way out. But if you have something that I can take care of, let your travel advisor or let Carlos know. They'll get with me and we'll get that taken care of.
I mean, that's one of the advantages. I mean, I really didn't want to use this opportunity to pitch our services, but it is one of the advantages of using an advisor with Luxury Cruise Connections, which is, you know, there's no such thing as hold times. We're not a call center. We provide very personalized communication and assistance. We communicate via email, text message, phone on a personal level. You know, we really strive to make that process very, very seamless. And like Andy's saying, sometimes the cruise lines, but this happens all across the industry. There's at some point or another, their call centers are swamped. At one point or another, they're hiring new people. There might not be as experienced as some of the old. That's just the way this world works. Simon, yeah, I booked direct with Emerald Scenic, not LCC. So like I was saying, yeah, it's it happens, but I can tell you, Simon, because I've been around for a long time, and because I know the people at Scenic, I've known them for a long time. I've been doing business with them for a long time. I know their president and CEO, their new president and CEO. You're in really good hands. Scenic and Emerald do an amazing job at, like Andy's saying, they're not perfect, but they do an amazing job at doing the best they can to make everything as seamless as possible. And then having us as part of that relationship really enhances that much more. Like Andy's saying, I have Andy on speed dial. Every single one of our advisors in our company has Andy on speed dial.
They do.
Yeah. And if there's anything, like sometimes we also experience long haul times with their call center. And like I said, we have seen that across the board in the industry. And thankfully we have that relationship at a different level, that if we need something done, hey, the call center is taking too long to get back to us on this flight confirmation. Andy, help us out. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the edge that we have. That's how we make that whole experience that much better. But I'm telling you, Simon, by the way, you might have not heard of Scenic more than 10 years ago in the Americas, but they've been around for decades in Australia. They are the biggest cruise line and expedition company in Australia. And Australia, by the way, is the third largest cruise market in the world. So there is, you couldn't be in better hands. Like Andy's saying, nothing's perfect. It's never perfect, but the will of making things as perfect as possible and the passion to making sure everybody's happy and that everything's taken care of is beyond. So beyond anything I've seen. So Bernard, thank you. If there's any other questions, this is when, because we did go way past our.
But we had fun, Carlos. We had a lot of fun.
Fun. Yeah,
we
for
had
sure.
fun.
For sure.
Like I said at the very beginning of this thing. Now you heard Claudius. You wish you had him in an app. I was not lying.
Thank you.
I wish I had him in an app, and every time I could type in there a destination, and I have the Claudius app talk to me about this particular destination. So I brought the creme de la creme to this presentation for one of our greatest partners that we have here at Scenic.
We thank you, and we want you to be comfortable traveling with us, and we'll explain to whatever end it takes the process. And we love our vessels, we love our crew, we love what we do, and we love to travel, and that's what it's all about. We want everybody to just enjoy the travel, and it doesn't matter if it goes on Emerald, Azura, Sakara, or the Scenic Eclipse Discovery yachts. There's plenty of places we go to that are just stunning, just stunning. And as I said, I've been pretty much all over the world, and doesn't matter if it's Djibouti or the Capri. I love it because every place is something that you'll enjoy. Doesn't matter what there is.
Well, again, I want to remind everybody that those that attended today's presentation and everybody was invited has a $250 savings certificate that we'll send an email following up with this together with the recording in the next 24 hours. You can use that. You can use it to book any new Emerald or Scenic cruise within the next 2 weeks. It is combinable with all published promotions and everything else out there. We want to remind everybody that here at Luxury Cruise Connections, our mission is to help each one of you create the most memorable cruise vacations or just vacations in general. We specialize in personalized service. Our team is it's full of incredible experts in the cruise industry and in the world. We are all about relationships, not just with our vendors, but with our clients. And because of that close connection and relationship that we have both with our vendors and clients, we can make some serious magic happen. I want to also use this opportunity for those that already do business with us, please feel free to reach out to your advisor and ask about your next Scenic or Emerald cruise. And for those that have never done business with us before, you can reply back to the email. You can when we send you the follow-up video of the presentation, you can email us at marketing@luxurycruiseconnections.com or carlos@luxurycruiseconnections.com. I'm going to type it right here, luxurycruiseconnections.com. Feel free to email us, let us know that you're interested. We'll make sure we set you up with an advisor that can take care of you on a personal level. And if you have any other questions or anything else that you might have thought of after this presentation, any other question that you might have for Claudius or for Andy, let us know. We're happy to ask and reply back to you with your answers. That's it. That's all I have for today.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Thank you for
Thanks, guys.
sticking it out with us. Thank you, Carlos, for making it happen. Really appreciate your business. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
hey, go cruising 2023. Thank you.
See you at the Ross
Thank
Sea.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, Andy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.